Alright, what is up y'all? We are continuing with the advanced tutorial of Luigi's Mansion. No Out of Bounds. We are continuing from the hidden room where we hid in our room. Now we're going to go to the next room. And again, we're going to assume we know weeds. This is actually a really good place to go. Laundry boutique skip. I didn't even think about this till when I was doing it. Literally. There's also like an initial spot. If you stand like right here, where I'm standing, you can get both at once. But pay attention to the reactions of it. As best as you can. Obviously do a vacuum cancel when you walk in. Don't stand there, walk, and then go. You know, actually do a vacuum cancel and then go. It's something you may not think of after being a beginner. You know, make sure your vacuum cancel go. Not vacuum go. So like, if you know what I'm saying, don't do this. And do this. I don't stop moving. It's also a bad angle, but I don't stop moving. The laundry boutique skip is an interesting one because you almost always go for this as advanced people, and nobody ever gets it. If you get it there, that's a good example for the tutorial. So you want to pull the boo back, as I was talking about before, with the angles and the pull back with controller stick and C stick to make sure he's at a right angle. And right before you suck him into the vacuum, like right at 0, you want to be able to get this cloth and pull it down at the same time, because if you do it too early, he's going to have 0 life and run away from you somewhere. So you want to do it like around that frame, and then you want to pull directly down right. You want to like visualize, like look at the cloth and visualize it being you trying to pull it off, and it has tension on it and it won't come off the wall, and you have to pull it really hard, and you try to do the hardest pull you can ever do, but you don't have that much room to move around, so you try to find the most room you can and pull it as far as you can. So we do like down right, because you don't want to be over here. It's slower to be over here. I gotta walk over here afterwards. So you want to try to visualize like pulling it down right as much as you can, as tight as you can, and get rid of it. And it's very, very finicky because you can be like a little bit off. You can be over here instead, and it's not quite as tight as over here. Or you can be over here and not get it because you're too far over here. Sometimes I've seen people just get it like pulled down like this. It's really weird how it works. It's really weird. I may not get it again, but that's the idea. You want to try to go for that. It's normally easier to get him from the other side because he's a little bit higher up. Oh dang, twice in a row. So we know what we were talking about. I generally try to line myself up and like whip around, like you see me like point right and then point down afterwards. So like I'm pulling against and then pulling back down on it. That's something I like to do. But it can kind of vary depending on what it is. Like I said, just visualize yourself pulling it off the wall and try to pull it as much as you can with the least amount of room that you have, because obviously you're looking at a wall in front of you. So there's not much you can do. So that will be the second edition of the laundry boutique skip tutorial with the not Michael T00 Kappa, and we will continue. Go into Melody's room, right? Gotta get our music on. And this is where I normally pay attention to that idea of like movement and animations. Like I try to tap it as fast as possible and try to come at it with an angle so that I get a tapping animation. This is where I come into play. So make sure you're hitting like the furthest area out. You don't want to hit way over here on the harp. You want to hit as furthest part out as you can. You know, and the furthest part out as you can over here, knowing where you're going to go next. Like I'm going here, then I'm going to go here, so I don't want to go here and then go here and hit this and then go over there. It's going to be slower. I want to hit this. I want to go in the door. I want to hit this like a little bit down here because I want to be able to go to this next. I don't want to be blocked back here and then go over there. You know, you want to be halfway there, halfway there, halfway there, and then do this. Some people hit this and then hit this and then hit this. Some people hit all three and then hit that. I don't think it really matters. Do whatever you want. You can hit all three of them. I think I do back and forth personally. But you can do whatever one you want to do there. We'll give a save state before melody here. But you want to hit, like, keep in mind hitting this, hitting this, hitting this, and then hitting this maybe like as far right as you can without accidentally hitting this, because this doesn't do anything clearly. So that you will be able to go to melody as far as possible. And I've seen a lot of people, like, if you go over here, there's a piano here, right? And we already know there's going to be a questions, and you already know the answers to these, right? The Mario theme is the third answer. Mario water theme will be the first answer. This is the Mario theme, so it will be the third answer. Well, what happens is I intentionally did this slightly wrong, because this is one of those unslightly movement things that actually can save time later. This was the correct faster movement directly to melody, but you get like behind a excuse me, you get behind the piano, and then getting the sheets becomes hard sometimes. So what I've seen some people do instead is like give them like a little bit of space. See if we get the same song again. Then we got a different one. Or do you change it just from that? Imagine. It's based on movement in this game, and all I did was a little bit. So now that I'm out a little bit more, you want to like push into where melody is. And see how I sucked all to one? And I got her already. You want to like point it directly at the chair that she's sitting in. That's where you get all the good stuff right there. Basically, you want to go directly for the chair. I've noticed it really helping. I've had a couple instances where I've gotten all the sheets all together and hadn't even had to burn anything. And most of the time they surprise me so much that I end up messing it up and losing time to it. I'm gonna save state this, that way I don't have to go through this again every time. So we have water again. 2 for 3 cup. So chair. Sit there in the chair. 1. Another thing you have to keep in mind, obviously after you get the last sheet, you want to keep in mind that you want to get to Melody's body as fast as possible, because you want to get to that heart. You don't want to like suck up the other and burn the other sheet way over here and then find yourself taking a long time to get to Melody to suck her up. You want to like progressively like move yourself there while doing it. So I like get the fire and then boom, I'm here, I'm sucking her up, you know what I mean? And then you obviously normally position yourself somewhere around here to get these. A lot of people try to hit this or this first beforehand. I've done more piano recently because I can't make it to this most of the time for some reason. But since there's nothing here, we have nothing to worry about, so we go to the key. And this reed is always down here. If only I could hit down there. Always remember your vacuum cancels for beginners that don't do this. Slam the R button all the way down as if you were doing a flashlight skip. And always, for an advanced strat as well, for reading booze, if he's not in there or over there, you obviously want to keep your movement as optimal as possible to get to the next thing. You don't want to walk all the way around the chair, all the way around here, all the way. You want to go as tight as you can to this chest. Get this. If there's nothing in here, you kind of want to do the best you can. This is one of the hardest rooms to explain this in because this is really bad reading this. But like, you want to do the best you can to read all of this. While something's happening, you always want to go to the next thing. You don't just want to hit something and wait. And then it's not there, and then, well, I could have been over here. And then if he's in there, or he's actually in here, then you just vacuum cancel and turn around and you be ready. You won't lose any time at all, if anything at all. You know, if you react to it because you just listen for that sound that the boo makes when he comes out of there, just listen for that sound when you're checking for stuff. Listen for that sound. When you hear him screech and come out of there, react to that boom, vacuum cancel. Boom, vacuum cancel. Every time. And I won't do that again because I want to make sure I have fire. I don't really need that much fire for what I'm getting ready to do, but you know what I mean. Make sure you get that boo back to the door and get yourself out of here. Flashlight skips. I assume we understand what they are. You have to, just in case we didn't explain it and you want to know what I mean, you mash the R button coming out, because what happens is he will just stop there and do that. He will wait to pull out his flashlight and go. You want to mash the R button just like you did with the vacuum cancel earlier. And he'll keep moving without stopping. It costs a full health bar to do vacuum cancels. It doesn't cost nearly none at all if you time it right and time that R button just right so that you barely use any R at all, but you can't accidentally get a blast if you don't time it correctly. Or do it correctly. So we're going right on to good old buddy Lugs, who's eating his lovely food, and we don't need any of him. So with this ghost, in here, there's only one ghost in here. It's pretty simple what I do here. I just literally get as close as I can to the thing and just move directly right and it'll automatically come off. I'm literally touching the fridge the entire time. Because you're waiting for that ghost to come out regardless. You're going to beat him nearly every time. Just make sure you don't slap yourself in the head. You know, you don't want to slap yourself in the head. So a lot of times if I keep moving, I can hesitate a little bit if I want. And just make sure you burn the ice heart that's on him, but don't actually burn the ghost. So the second you see him spawn, let go of the R button. The second you see him spawn, because the second he spawns, the ice will already be gone. Then you go right to the chest, you get some water, and you get some text boxes. Yay, right? I can show some like advanced reading of this room. There's a couple different things. If you don't have any fire at this point, you can actually still do it pretty fast without even doing anything at all. If you have a vacuum cancel, you just go right to it and boom. You get the water and you do that. The initiation of the water is you walking under this. You see how I did that? It just happened. And the water will not come to you until it goes to the top. Then it will go into your vacuum. So the cool thing about this is that if I don't have any fire, you just go over here and then while that thing is going up, you can do that and not lose time to it. If you want to do it that way, you can even do it that way if you want. I know some people that do it that way anyway, which is fine. You can do that. Whichever way you prefer there. Just make sure you don't do what I just did there and pull it out before you get there. If you do that, make sure you get to this thing first. And then, you know, like, go to your next objective and read this and read this. And make sure when you, like, hit an object, you get in the door here and reacting back to the boo afterwards. This is a really good boo to learn how to pull back. Because he just goes. He really just goes. I'll give you one more read, too. One that I do a lot of, to be honest. Because, like, when you have the water, and you have the cutscene of the water, you can tell whether or not there's something in here or not already. Obviously, if he's switched, you can tell whether or not he's in there or not. If there's a switch, always remember that there's a lump under the cloth when there's something in it. When there's something in the room initially. So if something switches when you're in the room and there's a lump under the cloth still, there's no boo under there. It means one of two things. It either means the fake is under there or the boo moved and it's just a lump now because the lump doesn't go away. So if you hear a switch and you look at a cloth and you see a lump still, no, it's not under there. See, I like to pull from side to side here to get him to pull back too. And the other read I was going to show as well, I like to read this for the fridge as well. Personally, may not be as fast as just reading it straight up from over here, but I personally like to read the fridge as well while this water is coming down to me. So what I can do is I can come over here, move a little bit to the right, and I can tell whether or not there's anything in the fridge if I move a little bit to the right and then move back to the left again. And another thing you can do is if you get the boo not being over here, for example, when you get in this position, if you point this directly into the side of the fridge here, so directly, the vacuum's like directly in the middle of it, you can activate both of those at the same time, as opposed to having to walk around the fridge to get this one. It can be a little finicky, but just make sure you got that direct right up angle. Put it directly into that side of the fridge. Dang, I'm gonna lose the boo there, Kevin. Alright. So anyway, we'll continue with this. You got the idea. Should be in here still. That's a really, really good boo to learn to pull boos back on. Let's take advantage of that. That one, storage boo, is a good one. But definitely take advantage of that if you're still struggling with it. To work on that, on those boos. You have enough cackles normally to not worry about anything, so do what you can. Always remember flashlight skips as well, just in case. I haven't been discussing that, but I discussed it before. Remember that throughout the run when you have element. Can't do it before element, obviously. So anything after the fire element. Now with this guy, I'm kind of just doing it. You see, you have to like bait him a few times, obviously, right? We know this. You want to get to him as fast as possible. So wherever like his body is, make sure you get to him as fast as possible. Make sure you're not too far away so he doesn't like walk a little bit and then move, you know what I mean? You don't want him to like walk a little bit and then move. You don't want that to happen. So I think it's slightly better to be a little bit more right there so that you get to his nose. It's a little bit quicker than going straight. But I bait him to the middle area over here. Because when you get this ghost, it should time the other ghost to be right on it so that he will pick up the boat and you get his heart right away. So bait him to about that area. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You have to shake him off just as you would really quickly. You can use whatever method you want to. Sometimes I'll use like a let's see. Sometimes I'll use like a controller stick and C stick, wiggle back and forth, which Michael showed me or told me about one day. That really helps with this one because you don't have to worry about angles here and grabbers being in the right spot. So you can just like move them back and forth and you can shake them off like nearly instantly. You can use the C stick method too, nothing wrong with that. They all can go fast if timed correctly. Just make sure you're getting the dog and going to the doghouse at the same time, and most likely you won't miss the doghouse hitbox, but it may happen, you never know. So, you know, be aware of the sound if somehow you do, because I've done it, and I don't know how, but I've done it. It's quite a large hitbox. Anyway. So we got the graveyard. Got a flashlight skip what you want to get out of there, and then we go right over here. Tab this. And you do like a flash until you get a double. And I can also explain the yellow double here as well, since we're doing this tutorial a little bit harder. Right? You want to take this on. It's the same type of method idea as like, it's the same type of method idea that if, I'm surprised I got that. I always seem to get it in random times even though I never go for it. It's really weird, but The yellow double, same idea. Flashlight, you have to be really close to the other one to make sure that flashlight is pulled correctly. It's just at a really weird angle. So it's maybe really hard for other people to understand. So I mean, it's not a problem if you're like a good runner like myself, because like I say, I don't normally go for it, and I have 56 or whatever I have in the category of this run, so it doesn't make you slower by a strong degree. And depending on RNG, it may not be slower at all. If the guy comes right to you, it may not even be slower at all. So it just kind of makes it a little bit more guaranteed. One thing I do here that I didn't do the first time. Let me get rid of this guy real quick. Ignore what I'm doing here. Then ignore the cutscene. You don't have a choice, but after I hit the box, instead of going like as tight around the corner as I can and then go over, I always move like a little bit more up left, like on optimal movement, slightly. Just because it's more likely, I noticed that when you go a little bit further out and left, the ghost on the right is more likely to come to you like he did there that time, as opposed to going out, so that I have to go for this big yellow double that I might want to try. So if you want to keep it the easier way, just do it like this and move out a little bit more. That's how I personally have found it. Experiment with your movements though, because it may be different for other people. It's possible, but that works for me. It tends to be similar for others too. So try it and see if it works for you. Now the last guy's pretty simple. Just turn around and get him. Do the best you can to get back into the cutscene, but don't find a way to get yourself on the edges of this. If you're on like either edge of the, maybe I should explain where that is. If you're on either edge of this, like if you land like somewhere over in this area, you'll just stop and not end up in the cutscene, and you'll just kind of like stand there and soft lock, and you'll just kind of like float around. It's kind of weird. I've only done it a couple times, but you want to make sure you want to stay. You don't have to go too far up here, but you can go as far up as you want. Just I tend to avoid the risk of it. Just try to do the best you can to stay in the stairs. Don't accidentally not be in the stairs. From the puff of the vacuum is what happens to most people. They're fine, and the puff of the vacuum, they jet off, pushes them back, and they end up over here and they're screwed. The entire run dies because of it. Yeah. You can choose to go around the other one if you're a little bit slower on the first part. It's a little bit better if that happens than to go around the other way then. You're not going to get as far. Bogmire, you have your choices, basically, you know. I'm going to try to get a safe state here. I'm going to show an example first. So obviously you gotta suck them up here. I do the C-stick method first of all, so that's the choice there. You hold the controller stick in the opposite direction of the ghost while pumping or doing half moons of the C-stick in the opposite direction. It's easier to control the ghost that way, but it's harder to do a suck up optimally that way. I choose to do this with this ghost because he's very destructive when you don't control him well. If you don't control him well, he will hurt you bad and he will break off quickly. So you don't want to lose him quickly. So that's why I choose to do it that way. A lot of people do controller stick method because it's much easier to go faster. Not sure if I can do it, but I can try it. It's not the fastest thing ever because I'm not very good at it. There's a reason why I don't do it. But I did do it there. It tends to be slightly more risky though. You can do the C-stick method just as well. It's your choice, really. If you get good enough to do it like really consistently with the controller stick, I would suggest doing that. Because most likely in the long run you will save time, but if you're having a real struggle, as you're getting advanced along the way on getting 1 cycles, C-stick is the way to go. Because at least you'll have that. Worst case scenario, you lose a little bit of time to some kind of hesitation because you're struggling on methods or something. If you know, just pay attention to his angle, really pay attention to where he's pointed. It's been good practice for me too to do this because I've been bad at it recently, so just really pay attention to his angle. Where he's facing is the most important thing, because if you don't, he'll take you for a ride and it won't take long for him to let go. You know, it won't take long. So we'll go on ahead and we'll get this key, and that is area 2, and that is the end of this part of the tutorial as well, because who needs cutscenes, right? You don't need cutscenes. I mean, you can say hello to EGAD for a second, I guess. Anyway, that'd be the end of this part of the tutorial. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back with Area 3 with more of this. I hope it has helped people get the idea of what you want to continue to advance with this game. Ask me any questions if you need be in stream or on video, YouTube, whatever you feel necessary. Have a good one.